All right, everyone, welcome back to the Sooner Surge YouTube Live. We'll get started here in a couple minutes. We're going to give everyone a chance to go and get in here before we get started, but for sure, a lot to talk about tonight with the transfer portal news and all of that. But we'll give it a couple seconds, couple minutes before we go ahead and get this thing kicked off. And again, if you have not yet, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got all kinds of content coming your way. As you guys have seen, we got the Sooner Surge at Sixes daily. We got these live streams weekly. We got the podcasts. We got all kinds of videos like the Jordy Ball one. The second it was announced, we had that video out. So if you haven't, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notifications. We appreciate each and every one of you who does so.
Yeah, for sure. Just like you said, it's been a hectic last, I would say, like 10 hours or so of really just whirlwind of stuff, Brody. It's really nothing really anyone expected with Jordy Ball or Derek LeBlanc.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this a little bit, but Jordy Ball, I've heard some stuff that even last year she had considered it. So I know it's shocking, but at the same time, it's not something that you would. You could see it happening just because it's home. Guys, all of us have been away from home, and there's just something about going near your home, near your family to play that's intriguing. She's won 2 national championships at OU. She dominated this year, right? So, next year she could have done the same thing. They could have win another one, 3 in a row with Jordy Ball, 4 in a row overall. But maybe she's wanting to go home to try to do it in her home state with the Nebraska Cornhuskers. So, to me, thank you, Jordy. First off, thank you, and best of luck to her. I'm not, same with LeBlanc. I'm not here to bash any kid for transferring. The transfer portal is free game. If you want to transfer. I'm not going to bash a kid, and I don't know all the reasons for everybody transferring, and I don't act like I do. So,
yeah, with what you talk about with Ball and the whole thing of now she can go win it for Nebraska, I really don't think that plays too much into the thing. I think it's more just her getting to, it's going to be less pressure, and she's going to get to go home and be closer to her friends, her family, all of that, which is huge because she's 8 hours away from them right now. So I think honestly that is the biggest thing. The by far biggest thing is going to be her getting closer to her family and all that. And, it can be tough being that far away from family. So it totally does make sense. At first, you're like, why would you leave OU? But then it's like, okay, that is what she was doing at OU was very taxing on mental health. And then you're far away from your family, and it can be a lot. So it does make sense her transferring. I know it's not what any Oklahoma fan wanted, but, wish her all the best of luck. And yeah.
I got a question.
I think it was you that said it perfectly on the Sooner Surge at 6. Is that with you being, she's only 19, 20 years old. That still is really young. She's not even to her junior year of college yet. She really is still, honestly, I guess she's technically an adult, but she's not really fully grown up yet. And the crazy thing is, like, just like you said, someone her age with mental health being such a big thing in sports today. And we saw with Alex Storako why she wore the green headband in her hair was for mental health. She talked about on her story the darkness he went through at Michigan. College sports, starting to become so tough with the impact they can have on social media. And just like players said this year, the pressure from playing on this team for some of them was just so much because all eyes were on them all the time, and that can be very difficult.
Yeah, but at the same time, please drop your questions, comments in here. If you have questions, ask them for sure. Hit the like button. The like really helps our channel, so hit the like button. But listen, so the mental health thing, we can address it, but is there stuff out there where she said mental health was a problem? Because I have not seen that. What I'm saying is I don't want to bring mental health into if that's not an issue.
No, there's a podcast that she went on, and they said it on the unofficial 40 YouTube video. I haven't listened to the full podcast yet, but I guess to summarize it, they said she's talking about like how she was going through some dark times and she wasn't finding joy in the sport of softball while she was at OU.
Talked
Well,
about it.
that could have been homesick too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Lloyd Grissom in the comments saying your thoughts on Derek LeBlanc. I'll go ahead and take this one real quick. With LeBlanc, it's an interesting situation. Obviously, not expected by anyone, but at the end of the day, Oklahoma's defensive line unit or defensive tackle unit is still in great shape. And I said this earlier. All love to LeBlanc and everything, but I think there's about 12 guys who could have got playing time over LeBlanc. I mean, LeBlanc, he was probably going to redshirt this year, and obviously he has tons of potential. We got to recognize that. You're losing your top ranked defensive line signee in last year's class, which stings. But, Ashton Sanders played like a dog in the spring, so you still got him. And honestly, wish LeBlanc the best of luck. I know a lot of people want to say a lot of it has to do with Schmitty getting the best of them, which honestly, when you look at the timing, it is a very weird time to enter the transfer portal on June 12th. That is not – if you're going to enter the portal, you do it after the spring game, after, the end of the season. You don't do it on June 12th. And it's just very unusual. But, like I said, I still think Oklahoma's in a good shape.
But Brody, you just said 12 guys. Name guys that you think would have played.
Hey, Jay, before he does, real quick, I don't know if you guys can hear me, but
we can hear you.
One thing about Brody just mentioned the timing of it, but you do have to. We did just get the Tennessee guy. There are some guys I think they're going to play, and maybe
they also got.
I'm not.
It's not
Paya.
It's Paya.
We want the names: Isaiah Coe, Jonah Luwalu, Kelvin Gilliam, Jacob Lacey, Ashton Sanders, Grayson Halton, Jordan Kelly, Devon Sears, DeJoun Terry, Philip Paya, maybe Marcus Strong.
I thought Lacey had an issue maybe with.
That's not confirmed yet, so at the end of the day, I'm still going to count Jacob Lacey.
Nothing has confirmed that. But it's just like Brody, you said, it's an odd timing to see Derek LeBlanc into the portal. It's not our job to speculate or it's not my job at least to say anything. But for LeBlanc, I wish him the best of luck in the future. Jason, as you said, for any kid that enters the portal, it's free game. It's up to them. It could be a personal thing with Blanc. You never know. Just like we were talking about in sports, it can be difficult.
It is very weird, though.
You talk about the Oklahoma defensive tackle room as a whole. Derek LeBlanc probably was not going to contribute in much of a way this year. And he was, but just like Brody, you also did a great job explaining this on the Sooner Surge at 6. His dad and him were pro OU for the longest time while even they were struggling. So this is maybe the most surprising freshman to enter the transfer portal that's out of the 3 defensive tackles.
Well, and what's interesting, I think I saw maybe as Travis Davidson tweeted this out about how it's very interesting that he had it released through a media outlet and not like him making a statement, right? Maybe we'll see a statement from Derek LeBlanc. I don't know, but I thought that was interesting that they just said he's entering the portal. We don't see a statement from him, but maybe we will.
Fabric, you said about the Jordy Ball news. We hit on this at the beginning of the podcast. It was a shock to everyone. This really came, I guess, from things that I have seen or heard, is that this was something that had been in the works for a while, and it was really a thing that Jordy Ball was maybe even considering last year at a point. And having such an elite player like Jordy Ball, you never want to lose someone like her anywhere, because she's maybe the greatest pitcher to pitch at OU, and she's only pitched there for 2 years, which is crazy to think.
Yeah, Fabric says, no disrespect to Coach Patty Gasso, but I don't believe Jordy just told her on Friday that she's transferring. Maybe. I think it's a situation that it's kind of Ball's been thinking about for a long time, but maybe she did just tell her on Friday, but I don't know. Maybe it was something.
I agree. I agree with that comment. Kind of like I wonder if Patty's known most of the postseason, the way they were pitching her, kind of like her last hurrah. I mean, they used her. Plus, she was red hot, obviously. But I think he also asked about the portal. I believe the portal closes June 28th, I believe. But for softball,
Lloyd says, with LeBlanc leaving, does that free up an extra scholarship? I honestly, I don't know if that frees up an extra scholarship because Oklahoma has so like their scholarship count. I don't even know where it's at. So maybe that.
I believe the other day I heard they were at 89 potential scholarship players, and the max they can have is 85, but they'll find a way to make it work. Yeah. Jeremy, I don't know if you maybe have any thoughts on Jordy Ball or Derek LeBlanc because you just got home, but maybe if you could speak on some thoughts you have about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think LeBlanc maybe is more of a shock to me just because there had been rumored, right, about Jordy Ball. LeBlanc was just bam. I mean, just kind of really didn't expect that. But with some things you guys talked about, and look, one thing I want to say about the Jordy Ball thing, okay, is I know there's been people who said, man, this is like Caleb Williams. This is nothing like Caleb Williams. Okay, Caleb Williams, while we could argue, guys, Jordy Ball leaving Oklahoma is probably, Caleb Williams didn't win 2 championships here. So this is like the biggest transfer portal probably in the history of OU sports. I mean, let's just when I know Jake texted me that earlier, and I was like, no way. This isn't as much as the Caleb. It actually, when you look at what she's done, it is. It's more so as far as biggest transfer portal news in Oklahoma sports history. But the way she's doing it is not even close in correlation to what Caleb Williams did, because she's going, honestly, I see this as her going to her hometown, putting them on her back, and trying to deliver a championship to Lincoln, Nebraska. Caleb Williams was not doing that. So I know there's been people who have talked about that. If you want to talk about just how big of a superstar Jordy Ball was and compare that to Caleb Williams, okay, but not in that sense, I don't think.
Yeah, the thing is, it's crazy how Oklahoma can lose a player as good as Jordy Ball and still be by far and away the favorite to win the national championship next year. They will be the favorite to win the national championship next year. And Lloyd asked, who will be the starter since Ball is leaving? You've got Nicole May returning, Kirsten
It's
Deal.
Nicole May and Kirsten Deal. I mean,
and SJ Urine, who redshirted, but I'd imagine they will add a transfer pitcher.
Some potential options. Courtney Day out of Texas. She was a pretty good pitcher at Texas. I could see Oklahoma pursuing her because she'd be a veteran, experienced person to bring in. I believe she's
Jackson.
Yeah.
Kirsten Deal was very highly recruited.
Number one pitcher in the country. Yes.
Yeah, so she's going to get her time next year. And they also got another number 4 or 5, like top recruit pitcher coming in. And then Nicole May's been great. So
Jimmy's out here in the chat. He says she's a Cornhusker.
Hey, let me throw a name out there.
Okay, throw a name out there.
Say it.
I've heard a lot of people saying the obvious names as Kennedy because she's from Kansas. It's closer to home. I don't think that's happening. Okay, but there will be a transfer portal pitcher that's a decent, probably pretty good pitcher that will become an OU. I think you can just mark it down. They got Storako last year. There's going to be probably a higher profile pitcher that's wanting to go play at OU. So,
and at the end of the day, you can throw all the names out right now, but that's all you're doing is throwing names out.
Exactly.
And Kennedy is not even in the portal. I don't believe
There's the girl from Texas that Jackson.
I don't believe Oklahoma is going to play during
40 days in the transfer.
Jackson can put the name out that he just put out. Okay, that's all it is. You're not going to know really who their top targets are until you start to see them take visits to Norman.
So, and the good news is what they got there right now are great. And I got to answer what Fabric 86 says, because Nicole May
was number 2 in the nation in ERA last year, going to the College World Series. We know she struggled in that first inning, but she did set them down pretty much in order, 13 straight. Now, can she mature enough? And, I mean, it's not like we're saying she's a horrible pitcher because Nicole May's done great things. She does need to maybe get to the next level of having the dog in her, kind of like how Jordy Ball did and just mowing people down there. But Kirsten Deal is a lefty that's also going to offer great things, I think. And I think the May Deal comment. What I'm saying, guys, is not like we're throwing out some pitcher and belly itcher like they used to say in the chant in the softball world. We need a pitcher, not a belly itcher. Come on, guys. We're not throwing those out there.
Yep, that's true. And I think, obviously, besides pure difference, the one difference between Jordy Ball and everyone else in the country is that people legitimately fear Jordy Ball. Like Florida State, after Jordy Ball came in, and what was it, the 5th inning, I believe, is that Florida State, you already know their hearts sunk. They were intimidated, that they just knew that they didn't have a chance. And it's just like, I believe it may have been Aaron Miller on the ref. I don't know if you guys can maybe help me. I could be wrong. But she's one of the greatest players to ever play at OU. And she's like, look, if I was playing Jordy Ball, I'd be scared as heck out there. I mean, just the way she roams on the mound. And if OU was to play Nebraska in the future, I would be legitimately intimidated to play Jordy.
I don't think anybody's scared of
Guys,
No.
at the end of the day, Oklahoma has Kirsten Deal, and I know everyone wants to talk about the talented freshman pitcher across, like in Stanford, Kennedy. I know everyone wants to talk about that, but Oklahoma has Kirsten Deal, who had a .77 ERA last year in 27 innings pitched. Yes, it's only 27 innings, but imagine she gets a huge workload. I mean, that's just going to change everything. She has the talent to be an ace, and I think she really was that this year with a .77 ERA. Like, that's crazy in a freshman year. And she was the 4th option. Now she's going to be maybe a 2nd, 3rd, 1st option. I think you're going to see a lot out of her. I think she will be Oklahoma's best pitcher next year.
Hey, and it's not like we're saying, look, Jordy Ball entering the portal is massive. OU's got arms underneath her, though, coming back. The way what Jackson was alluding to was the way she roamed on the mound. When she exited the circle between pitches, everything she did had like intentionality, urgency. I mean, she was just on it, right? Coming after you. And that comes, and sometimes that's just kind of in people. But Patty Gasso did not enter the transfer portal, guys. Patty Gasso is still around for a few more years, quote. That's what she said. Hey. And in Gasso we trust, boys. In Gasso we trust.
Exactly.
He's getting a statue. And you know what else isn't leaving Oklahoma is the 8 runs per game they scored last year. Okay, this last season. They averaged 8 runs a game. They got most of their hitters back. So I think, obviously their pitching may be a little bit down. I don't know. We'll see with Deal.
Yeah. And that
great
is
point.
the point. Yeah.
We were getting ready to talk about Nugent, but yeah, I mean, it's not a coincidence that Nugent, I mean, this one was not shocking. Because of K9 coming back, I mean, she's got to go somewhere else unless she's just going to, miss out this year on playing again, because you're not sitting Kinsey freaking Hansen. I mean,
no,
maybe a new position. And I'm not sure where Nugent's going to go. You guys heard anything on that?
No.
I mean, she just ended today. I don't think there'll be much.
I do expect her to probably end at a pretty decent school because she clearly has some talent. She was able to make it to OU. That's the first.
Yeah, she's a good player.
We got CJ Bunker here in the chat.
Just like with Nugent, I think that maybe there could be some concern for who backup catcher could be, because you lost Haley Lee, who played catcher some at Texas A&M, and Nugent, who was your backup catcher. So it's kind of like, do they maybe try and find a young catcher in the portal that has high upside that they maybe want to develop for a year behind Kinsey Hansen? So that's something to watch for as well.
Hey, CJ Bunker, yeah, there's no chance, in my opinion, she goes anywhere else except Nebraska. But, guys, I would be all down for an OU-Nebraska World Series final next year.
They're not making the World Series.
No, hey, even better, Jay. OU Nebraska, OU Nebraska at Memorial at Gaylord Stadium, like they had talked about doing with Ball against. Hey, but hey,
it would sell out.
I do want to say on that, Jessica Cootie, who used to be at OU, right?
Yeah.
She is now with Nebraska in some kind of media fashion.
Yeah.
She did talk about today how all the Nebraska fans were, talking about Jordy Ball and had nothing but love during Jordy Ball's run of the World Series for OU. They were all for Jordy Ball and OU. And now you have a lot of OU fans are all for Jordy Ball in Nebraska. I mean, that tells me right there, she's going to Nebraska. It's happening. And OU, from what I've heard, the most part, just like we hear in our viewpoint on this and what CJ said, we have nothing but love for Jordy Ball. She's not going out with a sour taste in her mouth. She's not just leaving us like the Caleb Williams and following someone and following Moneybag or anything like that. Okay? It's nothing like that.
Braden,
softball bro, Braden.
Hey, yep. If somehow she entered the portal, that'd be nice. But I don't see my Brady leaving UCLA. I just don't think that's much of an option right now. But as we can move to football in just a second, I think we've hashed on it enough. But as we all have said over and over, we all wish Jordy Ball the best. And I'm glad that she is now doing in a better place than where she was. And I hope to see her succeed at Nebraska. And Jason, I know we will all be wearing the number 98 in our Cornhusker colors. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at CJ's comment there. Yeah. I mean, like you said, we got May and Deal, so I think they're going to try to get one more ace to have three. I think Deal's going to be a lot better than people because people don't really know about her. She hasn't pitched enough, but she is a really, really, really talented pitcher. I mean, unbelievably talented with a lot of velocity. So, and a lefty. So
yeah, you don't find very many of those. Not only a good power thrower that is very, very talented and has control like Deal, but also someone that's a lefty too.
Hey, speaking of lefties, the baseball team got a lefty today. Very, very, very strong left-handed pitcher who really dominated OU when played against them. So that is a huge get for OU baseball. I know we're not talking about OU baseball right now, but
if we had Hunter
talked about left-handed pitchers, this pick from Wichita State, this guy could be massive get for Skip Johnson.
There's our point, CJ. Exactly.
Yeah, they're going to have to get you too. Do y'all know if y'all go back, Paige Parker for OU was a lefty.
Paige Parker.
She was dominant. Do you remember how dominant she was?
Well, who was the lefty 2 years ago?
Juarez. Oh my gosh, she was so good too.
That's good. True. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Make sure y'all, if y'all have questions, put them down below. Please subscribe and like this video. Subscribe to our channel. If you have comments about any OU topic, football, whatever it may be. Obviously, we talked a little bit about LeBlanc earlier. I know OU had a big recruiting weekend as well this past weekend and then this next weekend with Champ U Barbecue coming up. So a lot of things happening on the football side of it. But you know what? Before we move to football, Jeremy, the thing you mentioned earlier, let's get OU Nebraska softball game in the football stadium. I really think they could probably.
Oh my God! Imagine Memorial Stadium, 86,000 sold out.
If Jordy Ball was pitching against OU,
Jordy Ball would maybe throw a no hitter.
Do you really think they'd pitch her though?
For sure.
Why?
Just because. I mean,
why do you want to see Ball get lit up by OU's roster?
I don't think.
It's not a situation like when Caleb left. It's like, yes, I'd love to see OU beat Caleb, but it's not a situation where now you're like, oh, I would really love to see.
It's
not what they're saying. They're not saying
completely different thing. Completely different.
Yeah, completely different. Yeah. It would just be sold out because people would love to see. It's like, I mean, she'd get a standing ovation.
Chicken says, "What's up with LeBlanc?" Yep, he entered the portal, and it's very interesting. Weird timing for him to enter, but Yeah, it was surprising, but just based off guys they got in the DT room, I don't think Oklahoma is going to be in a bad spot at all.
Brody, we'll turn this question over to you because you cover recruiting very hard for us, and you are a great person to turn to. So maybe if you could just tell them about who you think and some things you heard from this past weekend.
Jayshon Ross is probably one of the obvious choices. I'd say defensively, Jayshon Ross, and then on the offensive side of the ball, I'd go Grant Bricks or Zion Reagans, but Zion Reagans is a little bit of a wild card, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. I would go with
Tell,
Zion.
tell the viewers a little about Grant Briggs.
Yeah, Grant Bricks is a offensive tackle out of Logan Magnolia, Iowa. And, he's someone he's a top 7 offensive tackle according to 247 Sports Composite. Number 1 player in the state of Iowa according to 247 Sports Composite. This is someone who I've heard comparisons to, and again, not saying this is the comparison I'd make, but Lane Johnson. This is a guy who is very talented offensive tackle in Oklahoma. Bill Bedenbaugh hosted, I think it was like 7 or 9 offensive linemen this past weekend, and Grant Bricks was one of them. He was in town this past weekend.
Yeah, and when with Grant Bricks, he's a small town kid. He grew up kind of in that farm setting, so he's used to doing some hard work, and that's what that dude is on the football field. He is a hard worker, a mauler. He's a Bill Bedenbaugh guy through and through, and I know I love to see players on the OU team that play with lots of nastiness, aka what the potential to what Savion Byrd has to be, just someone on your offensive line that's going to try and I wouldn't say necessarily cause a fight, but show them like who's the man on the field, and Grant Bricks is exactly that.
Hey, Brody.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on a local kid out of Oklahoma, Danny Okoye?
Yeah, that one very well might come down to Oklahoma, Texas. I don't know if y'all saw David Stone's Horns Down tweet today. That I don't know what that's in regards to, but it possibly could be Danny Okoye. Texas is going to be hard to beat there. But Oklahoma, Okoye definitely, they got to get him in for an OV. I don't know when that'll be. They got to get that done. He obviously just visited took an unofficial. And, Okoye, it's going to be very interesting. But, yeah, I don't know.
Are you saying Stone and Okoye pretty tight?
I'd imagine Stone is doing everything he can to recruit people to this Oklahoma class.
Yeah, it's Stone. If basically everything that we have heard about Stone is that he's trying to recruit, that he's basically pro OU, and this is the strongest OU's felt a while, I would say, about Stone. And you see him on social media. He's pretty active. He's out there. Like, he is active on Twitter. He wants to get his name out there. He wants to build his brand. But you've seen it, like the Horns Down stuff. He's been really pro OU as of late. And also a team that was a while ago that everyone was worried about was Michigan State. That I never believed that from the start. And after they lost their defensive line coaches one to the Seattle Seahawks, and was the other one to Colorado, Brody? Is that correct, for Michigan State?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah. So it's like with Stone, if Todd Bates can get David Stone, you talk about a player that has the chance to turn the tide completely of the Oklahoma defensive tackle and be a player that's a must get.
I'm going to say something, and I know you guys will probably bash me.
Wait, real quick.
You just said something. You said if Todd.
Real quick before you say,
okay,
I know you're about to make a crazy take that's going to get us into an argument, but I want to just get to this comment real quick before you make that take. We'll get to that real quick. 1982 Boomer Sooner says, watch the YouTube rebroadcast of the Kansas game and RSJ slam their QB. What's RSJ's story? Not heard from him in a while. RSJ was hurt he got hurt like very beginning of spring camp, and he had a shoulder surgery. RSJ, I'd imagine he will be healthy for fall camp. He's going to be someone who is going to be, and like you said, haven't heard from him in a while because he's been hurt. That's going to be a name where you start, like when you get the fall camp buzz of certain players. RSJ, I'd imagine, will be one of them. He's got all the tools to be a great safety, and that Kansas game showed a lot of flashes.
Hey, we watched him at Broken Arrow, guys. I mean, we watched RSJ, Robert Spears Jennings. We watched him all the way through Broken Arrow's high school career, and he played both sides, receiver and
physical.
defense. And he was very physical. He was great at going up and getting balls. We are going to hear a lot from him, I hope.
And the thing with him is too, in high school, there's debate that he was a better wide receiver, which means he has naturally good ball skills, which can be very helpful at safety. You've seen it, just like I've said this before. OU, a lot of their safeties that they've recruited over these last 2 years have been punt returners and kick returners on the high school team, played in the offensive way, used to getting the ball in their hands, which is going to help because we've seen over the past years where OU's had so many opportunities to create turnovers and there's been dropped interceptions. And if you have a guy like Robert Spears Jennings who is natural at tracking the ball and coming down with it, that's going to help not only in coverage, but also teams aren't going to want to throw at him as much as well.
Jason, what were you about to say?
Well, I mean, and our listeners, I'd be glad to hear their comments on this so here's the deal. Last year, the highest recruit OU got in the defensive line. We all know they missed out on Hicks. Brody, I'm not going to get an argument about this. I'm just going to state facts, and then we can talk about it. Okay? Last year, they did not get David Hicks, and now Derek LeBlanc's gone, which if it's the Schmitty thing or whatever, then that's probably for the best. But what I'm saying is hopefully OU gets Stone and they can get Nwaneri maybe, and at least get two of those guys. But if they miss out on Stone, I'm just throwing this, if they miss out on Stone, is it a failed recruiting class again for Bates? That's all I'm asking.
I hope you know that Nwaneri is not a defensive tackle. That's Chavis.
I know. But listen,
if miss out on
Stone, is it a?
I'm not even going to get into this argument because this is not a scenario that I think will particularly. I don't think there's a way that this scenario happens. So I'm really not going to.
I'm not saying, but if it does.
Yeah, you're trying to be hypothetical when there's no reason to be hypothetical.
Jay, I get what you're saying, but
if Brent Venables goes 0-12 this year, does this need to be his last year? Like,
no.
If Nick Saban doesn't win a game, like, come on, dude.
Hey, but Jay, I get what you're saying as far as the Hicks thing last year, but we are talking about one guy, and even Stone. We're talking about one for the entire. That every school in the country wants these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to get them, it's massive. If you're not, it hurts. But I will say that getting the Tennessee dude really helps Bates. I think he's going to be better.
Definitely.
I think this is going to be a massive, and I don't know, just the whole scenario and how that played out, but this is huge to get him because he's instantly going to make a difference this year, I believe. And he's not like a guy we recruited, but it's still a huge get.
Hey, I think Todd Bates is a great coach. I think he's a great recruiter.
Yeah.
I'm only saying this because it's so important to get the number one defensive lineman, especially out of Oklahoma.
Game changer. Game changer.
You want to know something? He did that last year if it wasn't for a huge bag of money for Texas A&M.
I'm not saying if.
You are saying if. That's your whole argument right here.
Oklahoma
and David Stone.
Oklahoma is outside of a very few players to exception. I would bet Oklahoma is not just going to offer someone $5 million like Texas A&M does, because that is something that Brent Venables is not going to do. It's just he's going to recruit the right way. Obviously, people act like Oklahoma's no NIL. They have a great NIL collection.
Yeah, they're not playing around NIL-wise.
No, they're not playing around, but it's like
in a lot of sports they're not.
And it's just like to Jason's point. Whenever Todd Bates came to Oklahoma, yes, he had the previous resume at Clemson, but he needs to show that he can do it at OU for a year because last year they were 6-7 and had one of the worst defenses in the country. So obviously I expect it to be a lot different this year. But my point is that they're going to have to prove maybe a little bit that the 6 and 7. I don't think it's going to be the norm, but some players may be hesitant to come to OU because of last year's success.
Listen,
I know what
There's not
Jay's
any
y'all are
saying.
players
missing
that are.
y'all are missing my
I
point.
know what you're
altogether.
saying, Jay. I know what
No,
you're
y'all
saying.
listen, y'all are missing my point because my whole thing is OU's going to the SEC. You're not winning championships without the guy in the middle. It's not happening.
No.
So that's why I'm saying you got to get the guy.
You're
from
right.
Oklahoma.
So Jay,
You gotta
what?
get him.
Yeah, you have to get him. I mean, that's the better way of putting it. You have to get that guy.
That's
and
what
then,
I mean.
Tell me something
okay,
I
instead
don't
of
know.
saying if you don't, because if you don't, at that point we have that conversation. But right now, there's no need to have that conversation.
Agree.
Okay. Agree.
Mm-hmm.
Agree.
Speaking of another defensive lineman that was huge in town was Williams Nwaneri. Brody, it's been presumptively Oklahoma Tennessee battle for a while. I don't know maybe if how you feel how Oklahoma stands with
You
them
know-
because obviously we all saw the photo of him and Miguel Chavis, and that looks like a potential great connection. And also Williams Nwaneri came out and said his best relationship is with Coach Chavis.
You know, talk about a timely comment right here from Chicken1515. He says the 10 transfer will help recruiting against Tennessee.
Perfect
He left Tennessee. Yeah, that's something that I believe this weekend. I think everyone knows that with Nwaneri going into this weekend, you can say it was Oklahoma and Tennessee. That's what, and I'm not saying it's like that. I'm saying you can say that. But you got Terry on campus now who can now talk to Nwaneri and talk about why he left Tennessee. But now I'd say it's a situation where it's Oklahoma right up here, and then it's everyone else with Nwaneri. So Sooners just going to have to close it out. And, you know, I don't know if y'all saw the picture of Caden Green, Nwaneri, and Isaiah Mosey. That's all those. And I don't know. We've talked a lot about former Oklahoma players and Oklahoma teams on here, but the coach of Nwaneri, Caden Green, Mosey, when they're in college, is Jamar Mosey, who is a former Oklahoma Sooner. So, you know, potentially we could see a Lee Summit North to Oklahoma pipeline going on here.
And
Well,
that's the thing in the 2025 class is that Emmett Jones, the spots could fill up soon because you've seen the crystal balls in the future cast for Adrian Wilson. They already have Grayson Harris committed. Kevin Sperry's been very active about wanting to get guys on board early. And it's like, if another guy does commit, do we see Isaiah Mosey, who's the son of Jamar Mosey, who's an OU legacy, choose, hey, I'm going to hop in the boat, so I'm guaranteed to have a spot at OU. And that's another thing to watch for is the 2025 wide receiver room because things could get hectic there.
Hey, you were talking about Nwaneri, and I think we could go back probably 5 months ago or whatever, and I think all OU fans would probably agree. Stone and Nwaneri, if you can get those two, they're the most important parts of this whole class, right? So to me, those two guys are still out there. Nigel Smith, not hearing a whole lot about him, but he's still out there as far as, you know.
Nigel Smith's going to be in town this weekend.
Yeah, so but I'm saying Stone and Nwaneri, you got your line, defensive line, and your end. I mean, that if you can pull those two in, it's a huge jump in recruiting for this team.
Yeah,
massive.
And Nigel Smith is another one. You got to lock that one down this weekend. That would be awesome. Lloyd says, if I'm correct, we've done well with players transferring.
Great point.
You think about Terry, and then you think about, I think they had 3 in 1 year with Wanye Morris, Eric Gray, and Key Lawrence. Chicken1515 says, appreciate the comment. Yeah, we appreciate all of your guys' comments in the comment section. We greatly appreciate the comments, questions, all that. Jimmy says, I would like to get Okoye too. Yes, Okoye would be amazing. And I don't
Jeremy, have you watched him in person?
I have not seen Okoye in person, and he's local. I mean, he's right here at Noah. Hey, but you know, he's kind of a guy that really wasn't, mainly because I think of his. I don't know if it's, you know, a family thing that these we're not high on OU, but lately has really been coming around and seeing more and more on OU, and it's crazy because of. And Noah's got some dudes, guys. He's not the only one. They got a few guys, skill players, but to see this guy at Noah and his size, his physique, though, and I've seen some, you know, clips of him in the weight room and things.
700-pound deadlift, dude.
Today.
Yeah.
Hey, and he's raw, guys. I think this guy, the ceiling on this guy, dude, like he's not even touching he's not even close to his ceiling. He would be huge because of what he would bring future. He may not be like an immediate impact, but you get him. I mean, this guy I think has a very high ceiling.
He has a
And
college
you're exactly right. And when you talk about the fact that he was not high on Oklahoma at all, well, he told Travis Davidson and Tyler McComas on the ref after his visit to Oklahoma that he actually spent a lot of time researching everything about Oklahoma before he hit up Coach Chavis and said, hey, I'd like to take a visit. And I think in Coach Chavis, he said that Coach Chavis responded, do we actually have a shot? And Okoye said yes. And Okoye has been on Twitter and said Oklahoma has a shot here. So it's great to see how Oklahoma has kind of jumped right back into this. Lloyd says, I'm going on a limb and say we get Stone, Smith, and Nwaneri. Yeah, I would go out on that limb with you. At this
My question
point in
is,
time,
would that even be a huge limb? That
it's not.
Lloyd, if we get those three, that is huge, and I agree with you.
Oh, for
But it
Nigel
sounds
Smith,
like the limb, that's a pretty strong limb to go out on, isn't it? Because it sounds like there's some strength and some truth to those three guys maybe. leaning
for
heavily.
sure.
for Nigel Smith, it's OU Ohio State at this point. That's what I would consider it a battle. And I would consider OU I think they've led there for a while. And I expect on this Champion Barbecue weekend that's coming up that they can solidify that spot.
Hey,
guys,
Brody.
I want to, yeah.
Nigel Smith, you said's in this weekend at Champ U.
Yeah, Nigel Smith is in.
How many more official visits does he have?
He's done Penn State and Ohio State.
He's got more scheduled. I know that he has.
He may have one to Oregon, but I could be wrong.
No, I'm pretty sure he already OV'd to Rutgers. But he has a Texas one, but it doesn't exactly line up with his commitment date that he's been hinting at. But with Nigel Smith, like this, he has A&M the weekend after the Champion Barbecue, and then he has Texas on September 1st. So I'd actually be pretty surprised if the September 1st visit happens. But maybe even Texas A&M one, I'd hope. But yeah, and Smith and Stone are not the only not the only really big time guys coming in this weekend on the defensive line. Don McKinley, who is 5-star, one of the best, top 30 player overall, one of the best defensive tackles in the class, will be in town. He's from Louisiana. I think everyone on here understands how hard it is to flip a kid pull a kid out of Louisiana from LSU, because if LSU wants a kid in Louisiana, 9 times out of 10, they're going to get him. But Coach Bates and Coach Venables, they have built good relationships with Don McKinley and his family. They offered his younger brother, Darius McKinley, I believe is his name. But they're going to keep pursuing. I think the whole family will be in town for the OV. That's a guy where if you could somehow, I mean that, and I see this comment right here saying, I think I don't know who said it, but maybe you're saying Wiltfong. Yeah, Wiltfong said Smith is crystal ball to Ohio State. Yeah, it's a crystal ball.
I also believe he crystal balled Caden Durham to LSU as well.
He did. That's why I've kind of started to.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that crystal balls are almost like a thing that, in my opinion, this is another talk for another day, but I think maybe they should consider taking them out, because recruiting, just like Jeremy knows this way, guys don't like recruiting because of the way it changes constantly. Like these kids, their mind can change any day. And I also think that
but they won't ever.
Dominic McKinley, Brody, that if you could get him, that's like the dream of him and Stone in the middle. You talk about 2 game records, that's someone you could have. And another guy that was on June 9th, or it was on this past weekend, as I should say, is Kobe Black. It sounds like Brent Venables and Jay Vi pushed for him hard. I don't know. I know that his dad was coached by Brent Venables at Kansas State. So I don't know if maybe OU made a move there, or if that's just something that Oklahoma doesn't have much of a chance at.
Nothing's changed with Kobe Black. It's going to be very tough for OU to pull that one off. That's been the case for the longest time. Now, yeah, and I think when we talk about guys who are on the OV, like you talk about Kobe Black enjoyed his visit. Like if someone says that, like that's not news. The news would be if someone didn't enjoy their visit, because who goes on a visit and doesn't enjoy it? Lloyd says, heard Caden Durham will be at the barbecue this weekend. Yeah, Caden Durham's going to be in town for camp, and he will be in Norman for 5 days. I could definitely see Caden Durham being one that Oklahoma locks down this upcoming week, because when you have a kid in for 5 days like that, you can make a lot of moves there. And Caden Durham and OU are very much trending in the right direction.
And I believe for the 14th and 15th, he's also scheduled to be an unofficial visit for him right before the officials. So if you think that kind of just hints where OU stands with him, I think that's been we saw a lot of traction for LSU. I still think LSU's in that race, but it was kind of like he was probably considering more towards LSU too because of track and field.
Yeah, wanted to talk about running backs. We talk a lot about this past visit weekend, the 9th through 11th. They went out to Toby Keith's hangar, all that. They did all kinds of stuff. That was one of their 2-3 big visit weekends, one of their first one of their back-to-back huge visit weekends. But Xavier Robinson is in town today and tomorrow. And the running back out of Carl Albert. That is one that Oklahoma is, starting to trend back up with. Iowa State, he took a visit to Iowa State. He was not scheduled to go on this visit until I believe like sometime this week he's scheduled it. So it's very interesting to see they got him in. He's like the only person OVing right now. So I imagine he'll get a lot of attention from staff members.
And that was kind of one that's been weird. It's because it's like it was Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame kind of backed off of them. And it's like Notre Dame's just not recruiting them anymore. And we heard Iowa State and Stanford there, or no, not Stanford, excuse me, just Iowa State, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame were mainly the 3 main schools. And that's kind of just one that if OU pursues him hard enough, he's going to be a Sooner. Like, there's no doubt about that. I think that even because I think he grew up an OU fan, even though people have said it's their dream to play at OU from offers before, we've heard that. I think Xavier Robinson will end up a Sooner. And speaking of Brody, another kid over the course of the week whose recruitment has taken a turn is Cooper Alexander. His dad played at OU, as presumptively he was going to be a Sooner, and sounds like him and the OU staff just aren't really jiving. I would say, would use the right word.
Didn't he commit?
No. I don't even think he has an official scheduled to OU. I don't really know if that's even going to happen.
No.
Hey, what about Mitchell on the 8th? Is that going to be an OU get?
Mm-hmm.
With Devon Mitchell, real quick, there is nothing wrong with the 230-pound running back.
Dude, he's fast too. I don't know if you've seen him run, but he can move.
Yeah, this is an SEC.
I actually see him being like a Dimitri Flowers though type.
Yes, he would be what Mikey Henderson could have been. That's.
But Levy doesn't use that position like Lincoln Riley did though. That's one.
Yeah,
thing.
but Levy might have to start using that position because Robinson fits that very well. Who are we talking about?
Mitchell.
Yeah. Devon Mitchell on the 8th. That is one that I would be shocked if he did not commit to OU. OU's got everything going for them with Devon Mitchell. Michael Hawkins recruiting him, all of that. Like, him and Hawkins are very close, and Hawkins is going to do everything he can to make sure Mitchell comes OU. And, I mean, I cannot overstate how shocked I would be if Devon Mitchell did not commit to Oklahoma on the 8th. I'd be blown away. Here's a great question. Jimmy says, how are we trending towards Braden Platt? Oregon is trending in a good direction with Braden Platt. That's how I'll say that. He did visit. He moved up his visit. But Braden Platt is one that I'd say Oklahoma is on the trajectory downwards with Braden Platt's recruitment at this time.
It's kind of one where it's like who was the visit to Illinois? Was it Easton Baker?
Easton Baker, yeah.
That was as shocking as it comes. But like, it's just like OU did the same thing with Lane Jenkins. If a kid wants to visit Illinois, it's not worth it to fight the battle with Illinois.
Oklahoma's not done. They're not done with Easton Baker yet. If he visits Oklahoma, things can change. But that one is weird because he was actually committed to BYU, decommitted from BYU to commit to Illinois after he got off from Oklahoma. I don't know. That one didn't make too much sense to me.
Yeah, and the linebacker room, it's like, I know I'm forgetting someone James Nesta. That's a guy that is very good baseball player. That's going to be something that's very impactful in his recruitment. With hopefully Skip Johnson and Brent Venables can do it together, get him to commit. And it's like, do they turn to Ty Anthony Smith? That's another guy they could turn to. They could maybe potentially pursue Jordan Lockhart again. But it's like after that, the linebacker class this year for OU, after Peyton Pearson commit to OU, it's kind of like if they don't land Braden Platt and if Easton Baker doesn't want to decommit from Illinois. Obviously, I know that Brent Venables is going to get two guys and he's going to develop them, but it's just like, who are they going to be? That's kind of a mystery.
At the end of the day, look, you mentioned it, James Nesta. He'll be in this weekend. That one's huge. But at the end of the day, look at who they signed in last year's linebacker class. And I want to also point out, Jaron Kanik is not going anywhere. Kobe McKenzie is not going anywhere. Kip Lewis is not going anywhere. They signed Lewis Carter, Phil Picciotti, and Samuel Omosigho in that class. That is a great linebacker class. Now you need to add probably 2 more guys that could come in there and compete. And then guess what? You also got the transfer portal, and I'm pretty sure you can find a good linebacker out of that portal.
And speaking of Lewis Carter, actually, I think this may be the same situation with James Nesta. Is that to where he's never visited OU, and Lewis Carter had never visited OU till his official visit, and he committed to OU. So it's like, can OU show him something? Because I believe he's OV'd. Is it North Carolina and Miami that he's already OV'd to, Brody? And Oklahoma was
off the top of my head, I think so, because I do know that he OV'd at North Carolina last weekend.
Yeah, so it's like if I think that's a battle OU could win, but also just like I said, baseball is going to play a huge factor in that. And Miami, obviously, they're a pretty solid baseball school. In North Carolina, I don't know much about their baseball program, but Oklahoma, if they can get him, he will play baseball at OU.
Hey, so got about probably 7-8 minutes left before we close this thing. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. But let's do, for our viewers listening right now, let's do a little lightning round. If you have questions, last 7 minutes, throw them out there.
Hey,
more comments like that.
I don't know if we need to fully go down this rabbit hole.
Can we have more comments like that, please?
Yeah.
Great comment.
Hey, 1982.
He is a flat-out fool. Hey, but Joe Klatt already called him out again.
Joe Klatt got him, dude.
He speaks for all of us on that comment. Okay, this is a good question. I don't think OU is going to give up, but I don't think they have a great chance whatsoever. I don't think they have a good chance whatsoever. I think it's OU's not going to give up. I just don't think Pierce is going anywhere from Ohio State. That is a good question, though.
Yeah.
7 minutes. Let's answer as many questions as we can in the last 7 minutes. Keep them coming. Quick answers. We'll give you quick answers.
More comments about Danny Kanell. We can have those on there.
Danielle Kanell.
Kanell segment, dude. Just a Danny Kanell segment. Yeah.
Hey, he's still bitter over the loss that OU gave him, and OU gave Florida State in the national.
Did you see what he said about Jordy Ball transferring today? Idiot.
I don't even read his stuff anymore.
Gosh,
does anybody know? Does he still do radio with Dusty Dvorak or not?
No, I'm pretty sure
they had a show together for a while. I don't know if they still do it together or not. But.
That would be hilarious. Imagine just him getting fried by Dusty Dvorak. I mean,
hey,
yeah, it's truly what a wild week or what a wild day for OU sports, man. This is one of the most, I would say, hectic days we've had in a long time.
Hey, but when we found out last night about Ball, how many of you? Well, other than Brody pretty much knew it was going to be official. I still was like, wait till you hear something official. Brody, you were right.
Which I don't blame you guys. Here we go. We got some comments to get to.
All right, let's go. Let's roll them up. Quick answers. There it is, chicken. How will we fare with current defensive line?
Yeah, okay. With the current D line, you've got Isaiah Coe. I'm going to talk about tackles real quick. I'll give you one, how will we fare? I think Oklahoma is going to be in a very good spot. D-line wise, not very good spot D-line wise, if you can continue to develop the players over the course of summer workouts and fall camp. Grayson Halton is a name to watch there. He's put on a good amount of weight. He's going to be a breakout candidate for Oklahoma on the defensive tackles. And then I don't know if y'all saw PFF's top graded returning defensive ends. Rondell Bothroyd for the Big 12 is at the top of that list. So I think Oklahoma they improved the depth on the defensive line. It's crazy.
R. Mason Thomas will have
Mason Thomas is going to be great.
To me, the current depth of the defensive line is, I think there's good depth, but there's no guy on the interior of the defensive line that is going to be a game changer. I think Dejon Terry has that potential, but he needs to show it first.
Grayson Halton
has the potential. He needs to show it first. And
all right,
has a great question about Eli Bowen, man. I don't know.
Win. I do think it's a if not win. Oklahoma sounds like they did a good job on this past visit. But Eli Bowen, I'd be shocked if he doesn't commit to OU. If I was to give you a date, I could see he doesn't really strike me as a guy who's going to commit too early. I could see him being a October, November commit, maybe in August at the earliest. Maybe things change, but at this time, I think he'll be one that commits a little bit later on. Secondary recruits, that goes along with Eli Bowen. You already have Jeremiah Newcomb committed at corner. You have Jaden Hardy committed at safety. And then they're going to have Michael Boganowski, who is at the top of their safeties board. He'll be in this weekend, and he's going to camp too. So,
secondary recruiting is kind of one where it's like, at this point, it's kind of like who commits, because you think that, Eli Bowen and Jeremiah Newcomb are probably going to be, and Devin Jordan, I would say I'd put my money on to be the three corners.
Well, they have such a good class.
And the three safeties would be Boganowski, Hardy. Actually, they may only take two safeties, so it's kind of just like who at this point?
It's all up in the air. You mentioned those three corners. I'd say Devin Jordan would be the wild card out of those three. Don't really have much confidence there, but safety, you got like guys like Joshua Lair, Vebu Traore will be in town this weekend. He got Fong to Penn State. Penn State has done good there, but there's a lot of different options at DB. Chicken says, I appreciate that. We appreciate that. All your comments tonight for everyone. We've appreciated all of that. Next one, Devon Mitchell commit July 8th. What's your thoughts? My thoughts are I would be tremendously shocked. I'd be blown away if he doesn't commit to Oklahoma.
That's a boomer right there.
July 8th. Some believe Stone will commit in August because he wants to focus on his senior year. Listen, I'd be very surprised if Stone doesn't commit by August. I think Stone is one. The Brent Venables and staff, they're going to push that along. And I think him OVing this weekend will give them another opportunity to push it along.
It's such a huge – if he can commit, I think he brings people along. So I think it's such a huge –
And speaking about that, we were just talking about secondary recruits, Jackson, and both of us drew a blank on a secondary. Michael Patterson McDonald, yes. Stone coming up brings it. Michael Patterson McDonald and Stone are very close. I believe if Stone commits to Oklahoma, Michael Patterson McDonald will follow suit. But yeah, the Stone's Matt, like that's one that I'd imagine BV is going to push along just for that reason that you mentioned, is that he'll bring guys with him. We see him on, his social media, like all he is on Twitter. Once you get that guy committed, he can do a lot of recruiting for you.
Yeah. Anything else? Any more comments?
Well, I would say that peer recruiting is such an important thing in recruiting these days. Something that goes understated, but guys, I think that's all we have for tonight. Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, if there's no more comments out there, like I said, we appreciate all you guys for watching this video, obviously, but for commenting. We love your comments. See a lot of y'all in our comments. Please keep doing it. Please hit the like button for us and the subscribe button. Make sure you subscribe. As we said, as we're moving to football season, we're doing daily content now. Like the ball stuff, we had it right when it happened. So turn those notifications on so you're aware of when we're coming out with our videos. Brody, you got one more thing?
Yeah, I mean, just wanted to kind of hit on back what you said. We greatly appreciate everyone in the comments tonight, everyone that has commented on our YouTube videos and all that. We've got the Sooner Surge at 6. Jay and Jerem have kind of, they've done that every day for the past couple of days. That is something every night at 6 o'clock, you can count on that being out. And so make sure you go check that out. They've done all kinds of like topics on it. Baby Gronk was one of the topics, just all kinds of stuff. So if you haven't checked that out, Jimmy says, great show. We appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to be back here next week doing this live stream again. And next week we'll have even more to talk about, I'm sure. So, yeah, again, if you haven't, make sure you subscribe. We appreciate all the subscribers, all the likes and all that. But, yeah, I think that wraps it up. Boomer.
Thanks for listening, Boomer.